Welcome back, and we're live. How's it going, everyone? Onan here. I have about 30 minutes, and then I have to go get a couple of my boys and take them to archery practice. So I'm going to try to watch the clock, and I have a timer going. So hopefully, I will notice that. It's been a little while since I recorded here. I had some people wondering if I was still doing it. I've just been very busy with work. Actually, I've been taking a lot of notes of things that I wanted to talk about in this channel. Um, and a couple things I wanted to talk about today. Um, and they sort of relate to each other. So and so this morning I had um a very long overdue conversation with my wife, just kind of talking about a lot of the I don't know, marriage is not what I expected in terms of all of this stuff. And I thought it would be less abstinence and more bliss, I guess. And and one of the reasons I was always afraid to bring it up is because it just felt like, as a man, I couldn't disrupt the ship any more than it already was through life and NFP, because that just puts you head to head with the various temptations of the flesh that plague me and plague a lot of men, I think. And I think Jonah and I kind of talked about this on our last episode of UCM. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. It came out on Sunday. We were talking about how, for Catholics especially, if you are really trying to follow all of the rules, not just the birth control rules, but all of the rules, um, all the way down to 2352, and not engaging in lust and things like that. And people can get scrupulous really fast. I said, when you're trying to follow all of those rules and examine your conscience, any delays or postponement of conjugal intimacy can present just a moral um, battlefield, especially for the man. At least that's the way it's felt for me. Felt for me for so many years. Um, so that when I just personally avoided a lot of difficult conversations because I was afraid it would disrupt that, and I just, for my own moral good, I just, you're sort of at the mercy of this. Like, as a man, as a Catholic man, you're trying to do all the stuff. You're really at the mercy of conjugal intimacy and your wife's willingness, the children's cooperation, all that kind of stuff, in a way that I don't think anyone else can really relate to. um, and so I was kind of communicating that to her, in part because, so right now we're going through what seems to be perimenopause, um, long, just very long, irregular cycles, long, long and frequent abstinence, and I guess the benefit to that is, I don't know, I feel a little more free to talk about these things because I kind of kid to her. I said, "Well, what are you going to take away from me?" um, so it's actually been very fruitful in that we've been able to have some conversations about some things. But and even this, so even after 22 years of marriage, it's clear to me that we're still learning about each other, and we're still learning about marriage, and for sure my wife is learning about me, probably in no small part because I just was a poor communicator of things over time. Um, these are just the kinds of stuff that I talk about here is not stuff that you just naturally and organically bring up to your spouse, I don't think, at least for me, at least. So you just kind of battle them in silence, and you take them up with the priest at your next trip to the confessional, and it just kind of stays this hidden battle. And it really wasn't until my wife really became aware of the battle wasn't because I mustered up the courage to tell her. It just she found out, and it was probably one of the best things that happened to us. Now that being said, we're still growing and we're still kind of recovering from 20 years of mismanagement. But it was a good and productive conversation, and um, it's it's been difficult because we she doesn't really know what's going on, and we're having to abstain a lot. Um, but so here's what I wanted to talk about, though. I just got done listening to the podcast. What's it called? Charting Towards Intimacy, which is actually sort of one of the reasons why the Uncharted Catholic Band came to be named what it is. Um, I think I've told you guys before. So Ellen and I, Ellen is a host of that podcast, and for those that don't know, she's probably she must be in her early to mid 30s, so she's younger than me. Um, I think when they first got married, maybe they were using contraception, but they had all kinds of their own problems when they started out, and still do. But now she's a full-fledged TOB cheerleader. She teaches Catholics how to have sex and enjoy it and all that. She has a female orgasm course. So I mean, I give her credit for that. I mean, she's but when we started talking about these things, she uh, it was apparent to me in talking to her, and she's someone that talks to mostly women, which probably explains some of it. But even she had no idea kind of the reality of the man's experience, and really just kind of told us we were crazy. But I think she's starting to come around. I think she's starting to understand, although she baby steps. But she had an episode today on I think it's called What If I Just Don't Really Like Sex? And it's a podcast towards women. And she, to her credit, fully admits that there was times in her marriage when she just kind of checked out of sex and was, I think the word she used is um apathetic or ambivalent to it. She would say things like, "Well, it's not really that important to me. I mean, I enjoy it when we do it, but if it's important to him, he'll let me know and he'll initiate." And that's actually been one of the points of frustration between me and my wife. My wife's a very responsive, desired person, enjoys it when we do it, but doesn't really think about it, and kind of relies on me to initiate it. And it's pretty much always been my job. And even after these many years, it takes a tremendous amount of effort on my wife's part to even consider initiating, right? And so, but here's kind of what I want to talk about. So she kind of acknowledged how she and herself had really failed. She had kind of grown apathetic, and so she spent this episode talking about the importance and value of sex and marriage. In of course, in true TOB fashion, she says these are the two arguments she made for why, especially for women. She was speaking to women. Her podcast is directed to women. In fact, I think they exclude men from their Facebook group, maybe because of me. I don't know. But she gives two arguments. One, sex is the renewal of the wedding vows, which okay. I mean, I'm okay with that. I can see the logic of that. And then two, sex is is an imitation of the Trinity. This whole self-giving stuff, which again, I don't have a problem with that in theory. And it's I don't. It's beautifully refreshing compared to Saint Augustine and those guys, right? And I appreciate what John Paul II tried to do and maybe accomplish through the theology of the body, trying to put what I would say more of a positive approach, more of a positive spin. I guess is the word that keeps coming. That's not exactly what I'm trying to say, but you know what I mean. Um, on on sex, which historically, like it or not, has just been very viewed very negatively, very suspiciously throughout history, is tolerated for procreation, et cetera, et cetera. And so out of theology, the body, and these sort of carriers of that torch, the Christopher Wests of the world, the Ellens of the world, trying to advance and promote sex as a positive good for marriage. And I I I really don't have a problem with all that. And in fact, I think it represents a very positive message. But what is always missing in these discussions, especially especially when from her standpoint as a female, is that's all good and dandy, something to strive for, but we still remain weighed down by some of the teleology type stuff that came out of Augustine and was developed under Aquinas. This focus on the acts and the function of the acts and the immorality of other acts and all that. Um, if the if the theology of the body, if these concepts were presented as the ideal, as something that couples should strive for and for the benefit of the marriage, I wholeheartedly agree with that. But it's not easy. And even her, like she even acknowledged, like despite everything she preaches and talks about, she herself still struggles to make sex an adequate priority in their marriage. And I think that's probably true for a fair number of women that are kind of responsive desire, right? And especially when you start having kids. I mean, motherhood is demanding. And if sex isn't super enjoyable to you, or you've gotten pregnant a few times when you weren't necessarily trying to, I mean, that leaves a lasting impression on you, right? And so I get it. Like I totally get why, especially for women, there's a hesitancy towards sex that men just don't deal with. We're reckless and reptilian brain, and we just throw caution to the wind and would roll the dice, right? And that's cause a lot of the conflict in marriage, but especially when this dynamic plays out in terms that make one of the spouses, usually the spouse, really concerned for their eternal welfare. And I just think we have to move past that. We have to, until we can really shake that, this, you know, renewal of the wedding vows, this imitation of the Trinity, this self-giving, all this, the liturgical connections that like Christopher West likes to make, all of those seem like a little bit of a facade if at the end of the day, the moments when that isn't working, or when it takes years to learn, one or more of the spouses is concerned about their eternal salvation or constantly on edge to make sure they don't fall into sin somehow. It's it's just not a really it's a very troublesome environment, to the point where eventually you'll get cranky like me and start a podcast. So I don't know. I see in the church, um I don't know how prevalent it is. I mean, it just as it is, the vast majority of Catholics just use contraception anyway, right? There's not very many Catholics that use NFP and follow the theology of the body approach to things. I'm probably closer to the theology of the body than anything else, but I still have my skepticism about it. But then I see people like, well, we got to go back to the good old days, the marital debt days, and stop using NFP and just bang out the babies, and whenever they come, they come. And I just think that is the wrong direction. I think we've seen enough of that. I think there was a reason why, when given the chance, the vast majority of people fled to the pharmacy to get birth control pills when they had a chance. And so I think we need to really take off the rose-colored glasses and stop pretending like we just, going back to the 1950s, Andy Griffith show type stuff. This is not reality. There's a reason why those people wanted birth control the moment they could get it. Now, the pendulum probably swung too far the other way, and I think in large part, I was saying this the other day on Twitter, is I think the church waited too long to address these underlying problems and things that people were dealing with. It waited too long out of fear of modernity, fear of the sexual revolution. So then when the sexual revolution inevitably happened, I think the church was caught flat-footed and couldn't hold back the momentum. Because while the net result may not be defensible, let's see, the whole sexual revolution, the whatever, the underlying dissatisfaction that led to that was real, and I think in not a small part was because the church, I think, church leaders, not saying not the church herself, were derelict in recognizing that people were crying out for help. This isn't just a bunch of like, the mother of 10 kids wants to get a birth control pill. Suddenly she's a hedonist and all that. My gosh, she just wants a break, right? She just wants a break. And I think the theology of the body was an effort to kind of put the genie back in the bottle a little bit, try to put the toothpaste back in the tube. And I appreciate John Paul II's efforts to do that, but I think it was a little too late, sort of thing. And I think by the time he came along, the damage had been done. And I think that's actually a really good analogy to what I was talking about before. Like, it took me 20 some years of marriage to really identify things that I should have done a long time ago. And I'm grateful. So I'm grateful that I'm finding out now and have a chance to rectify these things. But it's hard not to be sad about the fact that I look back and I think of all the heartache that I caused myself and caused my wife because I was afraid to kind of do the hard things, to have those conversations, to share things. So maybe I guess I can understand why the church run by men, we don't like to deal with problems. We just hope they'll go away. So maybe that's all that was going on. But I think the fruits of that are apparent. So for anyone listening to this, especially, like, don't wait, man. I know it's hard. Just rip that Band-Aid off. Tell your spouse how you're feeling. Wait for a period of abstinence if possible, but don't let the don't let that stop you. Have those conversations, because I think people would be amazed at how little we really understand about each other in marriage. No matter how intimate you are and how many kids you've had together, there's going to be a level of of ignorance about each other, and until someone says something, man, what a sad deal to go through your entire life. Reminds me of a story. I think I'm going to get this right. This couple is elderly. So this is I think this is the story. So this elderly couple sitting in a cafe, and they're having breakfast, and the husband, what is it? The husband grabs the the heel. So, and cuts it and gives it to his wife. Always takes the heel and gives it to his wife. And one day, his wife of how many years says, "Why do you always do that? Why do you always make me eat the heel?" And he was a little shocked. He's like, "That's my favorite part. I wanted you to have that." But they had no idea, right? Something that he loved, he wanted to give to his wife, and his wife ate it because her husband gave it to him, and neither one of So don't let that happen. Um, Talk to your spouse. Be vulnerable. Um, please, please don't let things fester and go on um, unnecessarily long. Please don't. Please don't make those same mistakes that I've made. And so yeah, I I think that I think that the theology of the body presents a an opportunity of healing and positive direction. I hope that the trend towards just going back to the way things used to be doesn't pick up too much steam because I'm concerned about that. But I think more work needs to be done. I think we need more people taking where John Paul II left us. I'd say he got us to midfield. We need to keep carrying the ball towards the other end zone, I think. So that's my pitch for you guys. Hey, New England Ants. I don't recognize you. You must be new. Welcome. It's just me today. Although I did see Jonah before. He drove by before and he was going to come in and say hi, but I was on the phone with a customer. So I had to wave him off. It's just me today. I got about 5 minutes. Okay. New England ants and insects. Good goose. Well, it sure beats the heck out of your other profile. Yeah, you're just. You say I'm the Freemason. I'm starting to wonder about you. You have so many different disguises and identities. You're probably a Fed. That's right, midnight. I'm not putting that comment on the screen though. But because Jonah, how long have you been married? You have so I've been married 22 years. You must, if I remember correctly, you must have maybe 15 years. But I don't know. You should. Now, here's what's funny though. So I was talking earlier about the. I'm going to pick on the ladies a little bit. So, all you ladies that are listening, you might want to just mute your mic. You might mute your speakers for a little bit, okay, and then come back for the next episode. But so, 14 years, okay. Well, now's the time. You're in the sweet spot. So I was telling you about. I was listening to Ellen's podcast, and I think I've told you guys I got banished from her forum because I asked her if it was morally okay for men to request a quickie, and she burned the place down. She closed it up afterwards. And we really haven't talked since then. And I would love to do an episode with her, but I think she's seen enough of Onan to not want anything to do with it. But anyway, I still listen to her stuff. Sometimes she says stuff that I think is really insightful, and sometimes she says stuff that drives me crazy. But every so often she'll say something that I think strikes a chord, and I'll tell my wife. I say, "Hey, Ellen's got an episode today. You want to hear it?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "Why not?" I don't like her voice. So I just, guys get a bad reputation for being bullheaded, but I tell you, I'm pretty certain I'm more open to change and doing new things than my wife. But yeah, she can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure she will. But I'm constantly sharing stuff with my wife, and she's just generally not all that interested in it. So, which fair enough. But do you share stuff with your wife? You ever share any of our videos, or maybe you share annulment proofs videos, I suppose. Hey, honey, John's got some good good news for us. You want to check out this episode? um, but yeah, marriage is hard. Marriage. Aw, I'm trying to let her off the hook. You're. I'm trying to get her. You know, get you off her back. So I don't know. Let's do an interview sometime. I'll talk to her. We'll talk about find out how you really are. But marriage is hard, and it's really hard, I think, as a Catholic. If you take it super serious. Now, if you take it a little less serious, it's not so bad. But that's where the little Father Ripperger voice in the back of your head kind of keeps you up at night, and so you have to be careful about that too. But do what you can. Trust your conscience if you can, but that's easier said than done too. So I don't know. 10 years from now, Onan is a grumpy old grandpa ranting and raving about things. Do you think theology of the body will still be the thing, or will I'll be following the John Farrell playbook? I don't know. We'll have to see. Well, I know what your wife says about you, and I see what she says about Father Ripperger. Seems like she knows what she's talking about. I don't know. Maybe we could, yeah, I mean, I sound like we have a lot of common ground. Let's bring her in. I wish there were a few more ladies that would come on the show. No way do I try to exclude the ladies. They maybe the ladies have the good sense to stay far away from all this. I don't know, but open invitation. Any of the ladies in the audience, if you want to come on and talk, let's have a conversation. Tell me what you think of theology of the body. Tell me what you think of NFP. Tell me what you think your husband thinks of all that. I think that's even better. You need one of those shows where they like answer the same question. They got to like who and then they compare results afterwards. That'd be real interesting. So, okay, all right. I've got 1 minute left on my watch, and then I got to scram. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to try to do this a little more regularly. But I wanted to hop on and catch up with you guys. It's been a trying time in the menopausal household of Onan, but it hasn't been without fruit. So we'll keep plodding along, and I'll share the good and the bad and the ugly with you. So appreciate everyone watching. Appreciate your comments, and until next time, everyone, have a good one.